Today on 5x5 Outdoors, we are going to be turning some wrenches. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is an outdoor channel turning wrenches? Well, I'll tell you. So, my 2010 Chevy Traverse started having some issues. It would not rev up above like 2000 RPM, and it just had no power. It couldn't go. It's thrown some codes in the past. It was a P20420 code. It just said that bank 1 was running under threshold. I'd clear it, it ran fine, and then all of a sudden it didn't want to run no more. So I took it to a shop. They looked at it and told me it was my catalytic converters were plugged and that it would be just over $5,000 for them to fix it. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have $5,000 to just throw into my car. If I had that money, I would much rather go hunting with it or fishing with it. So let's save some money and do it ourselves. And if you are an avid outdoorsman, you are going to run into needing to do maintenance on your vehicle. So I do maintenance on my vehicle, and I throw it up here on YouTube for y'all. Before we get into it, with ordering 3 new cats, because my vehicle needs 3 cats and 4 O2 sensors, I was able to come in under $400 for parts. Now, the Chevy Traverse's battery is actually behind the passenger seat, between the front passenger and the back passenger. Pop this little cap up, 10 millimeter. Since we are going to be working with electrical, it's best to disconnect the battery. In this frame, we are towards the back of the car, looking towards the front of the car, and this is the very back catalytic converter, and this is where we're going to start. 15 millimeter wrench, this just happens to be a ratchet wrench, and start taking bolts loose. Alright, go ahead and film me trying to pull this out. Once that cat is out, this front cross member beam that goes underneath the engine will need to come out. So we're going to need to undo the wiring for that O2 sensor. And there's a safety clip up there, which actually has already been disconnected, and then we'll just unplug it and take these 2 nuts off, and that nut already looks like it's somebody tried to take it off because it's completely rounded. Now that I got those loose, I'm just going to leave them with a couple threads so when I go back and pull that back one, the whole pipe doesn't just fall down on my face. Okay, so now we're back. We're behind the engine. There's an O2 sensor there we'll need to disconnect, and we'll need to undo those 2 nuts. This is under the car, looking up at the rear of the engine, looking around to see the best way to get this catalytic converter out. There is 1 nut at the top and 2 studs at the bottom, but the nuts are on the front inside. Alright, I got it off. It was sitting up like this. So that one I could get to the bolt, or the nut. Those 2 studs were sticking towards the engine. And I was able to get it off, but it was not the easiest thing, and thank God they weren't too rusty. Don't like that. Okay, to get to the next cat, we need to remove that heat shield that you can see right there. To get to the heat shield bolt, we need to remove that. That one and that one should be 10 mils. That clip is like the rest of them, except for it actually has the safety in it, which is right there. I'll just pop that out. So now that the tray's gone, there was a nut there, and I got a nut there to take off. And catalytic converter should fall right out the bottom. Alright, I almost forgot. There is one more 15 millimeter bolt holding this cat in. It goes from the catalytic over to where the engine mounts up with the transmission. So I'm replacing these O2 sensors. This one is in the front of the motor. I ended up clipping the wires, and then I cut it with a 4-inch angle grinder so I could get a standard deep socket, which is a 22 mil, on it with an impact gun to break it loose. It broke loose pretty easy. This is the tailpipe. It goes from the very back catalytic converter to the engine front back catalytic converter to the front catalytic converter. This one did not want to come out. I put heat to it, had to cut it off, as you can see here, so I could get, ooh, that's so warm. So I could get a impact on it and got it broke loose with a really good impact gun. This back one, it broke loose really easy, but as you can see, somebody put a delete on it, which I will be deleting the delete when I put it all back together. Alright, this is the exhaust manifold. That was that O2 sensor we were trying to get to. There is no way to get that out without pulling the exhaust manifold. 3 bolts on top, 4 bolts along the bottom. They're not too bad to get to. Take these 3 10 millimeters off and then we can try getting that out. This is the front exhaust manifold where one of the O2 sensors go in. And this is me just putting it back in. I'm using a 20 millimeter stub wrench. Alright, my parts all showed up. It was Tuesday night. I was just in a hurry. I put it all back together and then realized I didn't film putting it back together. But you can do this. I have faith in you. Put it back together backwards from how you took it apart. So if you started at the last cat and worked to the front of the car, then start at the front of the car and work to the back of the car. It's really not that complicated. You can do it, and to save yourself $4,500, you can do it.